Hi, honest discussioner here. I know I haven't been making as many videos as I used to. I've been very busy. Um, I've been dealing with schoolwork and job work and web work, and I've actually been past couple days I've been working very hard on a website for a couple people around here on YouTube. I can't give you any more details than that, but it should be pretty awesome once it comes out, and I'll tell you as soon as I'm allowed to tell you. But I should be in bed right now. I really should. But someone sent me a video, and I felt the need to respond. And besides, I miss you guys. I really do. This is a person called Please Convince Me. Now, I was confused at first because that kind of sounds like a name of an atheist asking to be convinced of theism. I'm a bit confused by the name myself still. This is someone who is a older gentleman who's a Christian apologist and also a homicide cold case detective, if I'm correct. So if you have murdered anyone, first off, I'd recommend you not do that again. And probably turn yourself in. But if you're adamant that you don't want to get caught, might not want to hang around this guy too much. But again, please don't kill anyone, especially me or anyone I know. Moving on, he did a video about prayer and why God doesn't answer prayers. Now, the video, for the most part, is not anything new to me. The arguments are nothing new to me. He basically starts off asking the atheist question of why isn't prayer answered, saying things like, why aren't people healed if people are prayed over, and that sort of thing. And he gives the usual response that God answers every single prayer, and it's either yes, no, or wait. He says not yet instead of wait, but it's a small variation on the same thing. Now, again, this isn't anything new. I've heard this before. It's a very popular thing, especially among evangelical Pentecostal groups, not so much the Orthodox or the Catholics as far as I know. But I think it's really dodging the question on many fronts. Let's go over exactly why that is.
If there is a God, why doesn't He consistently answer the prayer of His followers? There are many deserving, devout Christians who pray to God and seem to have their prayers go unanswered. And does unanswered prayer serve as an evidence that the God of the Bible simply doesn't exist?
Well, that's what I think, but tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, in order to answer this objection, we've got to understand something about God's priorities. While it's true that many prayers seem to go unanswered, this perception is probably based on the fact that the only answer we would find acceptable to prayer is yes.
See, this is where I think you are a bit mistaken. It's not a problem for someone to hear no. It's not a problem for Christian theism that someone asks for $1,000,000 and is not automatically granted $1,000,000. I don't think anyone is really seriously arguing that God must be a wish machine in order to actually be loving. You allude to this in part of your video, but the clip that I just showed sort of gives the impression that the only prayers that people are expecting to have answered are the selfish ones. And you say the prayers that really should be answered are these.
Now, in order to understand why a particular prayer might fall into one of these three categories, it might be helpful to look at those prayers that God always answers in the affirmative. God always says yes to our requests for wisdom, forgiveness, and salvation.
The problem here is that what you're positing is exactly what we would expect if God does not exist. First off, the idea of asking for a prayer for forgiveness and salvation, these are things that we really won't find out until after we're dead. We will only have a feeling that we have been forgiven, or a feeling that we have been granted salvation. This is not anything that you can actually say God answers yes to. You're only going to be going off of the Bible here. So we don't know that he's actually saying yes. We're just kind of taking him at his supposed word in the Bible.
We see this quite clearly in James 1:5.
As far as praying for wisdom is concerned, I think this is much better explained under naturalism than appealing to some God answering your prayers, simply because this is a phenomenon that happens in all religions and even atheists. When we're being introspective, we're generally able to get a better grasp of our situation, and I think that explains a lot better than your take that if you pray to God for wisdom, He's going to grant it, because you have Hindus and atheists doing similar things. The atheists obviously aren't praying to God, but still getting the same results. As well, these results, this wisdom is far from infallible. I'm sure you can point to many different times in which people have prayed for wisdom and they got it and apparently it worked out. But I think you're going to be ignoring all the times when people, many of which are in my family, have prayed for wisdom, believed they gotten it, and the advice they thought they were getting from God turned out to not work out so well. And I think we tend to ignore those disconfirming times. Moving on to what you say in James, I find your use here interesting because it's okay to quote James, and I'm not going to say that your interpretation of the passage is wrong, but I think it's inconsistent because if you look at Matthew, he says something as well as far as prayer is concerned. Matthew 7:7, ask and and it shall be given to you, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. Verse 8, for everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. Verse 11, if ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things to them that ask him? So this is specifically saying that if you ask for good things, this is not specifically saying wisdom here, or salvation, this is just saying good things, He will grant it to you. This is obviously, no one's expecting to have $1 million drop down their lap as soon as they're asking it, but I would imagine that if someone is honestly praying for someone to get better, someone else to get better, for their own sake, or for the sake of the other person, that should, according to this, cause God to at least be more inclined to help the person out. And the problem is, this is not what we see in reality. Excellent study on prayer. I forget exactly what the numbers were. Let's just say that there was 400 people. 100 of them, all of them had the same medical condition, and they were all about to receive surgery for this medical condition. Now, 100 of them were prayed over and were told that they were being prayed over. 100 of them were prayed over and not told that they were being prayed over. 100 of them were not prayed over but told that they were being prayed over, and the last 100 were not prayed over and also informed that they were not being prayed over. And the interesting thing is that there was absolutely no difference in recovery rate or chance of complications in the patients. They were all nearly identical. If God has any intercessory prayer, should we not see that the people that are being prayed over have at least some sort of statistically significant advantage over those that are not? Otherwise, what is the purpose of prayer if you're not asking for wisdom, salvation, or forgiveness? Or do you posit that's the only purpose for prayer? So those are my questions to you. Have a nice day. Honest Discussioner, out.